Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I believe that your body does want to and is capable of rebuilding and healing itself regardless of what chronic disease you may have. I'm here for you to answer your questions, bring you innovative and cutting-edge technologies and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest will be talking about his journey of gaining and losing weight and its effects on the physical and mental and spiritual body. And I know that you really need that strong physical foundation to work on your mental growth, whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, or even increasing your level of frequency in life. You need a strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in life. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you get there. You can find my health articles, my cutting-edge natural supplements, devices, and protocols at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I dive into an array of health conditions, their causes and symptoms, and how to address them naturally. I have spent thousands of dollars and hours of my time biohacking different supplements, technologies, and diets that don't work, so you don't have to. And if you have any health issues you need help with, you can email me through the website. I personally read everyone. Accelerated Health Products is the sponsor of this show. So as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting edge content and guests to the show. Today, like I mentioned, we're going to be diving into how a lack of exercise and eating the wrong foods can suppress your vibration and mood and energy, as I'm wanting to help you increase your level of frequency in life. So first, I wanted to talk about some frequency enhanced supplements that can aid in the process of healing quicker and more efficiently. First, the Accelerated Keto. This is the only keto supplement. First, it comes in a capsule, so you don't have to drink a disgusting shake, that not only kicks you into ketosis within 30 minutes and gets rid of those cravings for sugar and carbs, but it also has additional fat-burning ingredients that actually help defat and cleanse the liver. Many of you may be suffering from fatty liver. Keto on its own helps, but this gets you the results much quicker. Also, you'll feel mental clarity that you haven't felt before, and that brain fog lifts. Your energy produced at the cellular level is 10 times more than when you're eating a high-carb diet. Personally, I can go all day fasting with amazing mental focus, and that also allows my body to heal, reduces the pain and inflammation. And as you feel better physically, you're able to mentally increase your frequency or your vibration and become a better version of yourself. Second is the Acceleradine iodine. Iodine is truly the wild card in supporting the immune system. It is not only anti-inflammatory, but it's antibacterial. It is antiviral, which is important right now, antifungal, antimicrobial, antiseptic, antioxidant, anti-allergenic. It's an antihistamine, and it actually hydrates the cells without drinking water. It detoxifies the body and produces mental and physical energy. It also performs that unique function known as healthy apoptosis. Apoptosis is the natural death of traumatized and unhealthy cells. And also, there is no pathogen resistant to iodine. Iodine was used to protect the people from the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic that killed over 30 million people. And all of these benefits are in addition to its key role for the metabolism and the thyroid and for the immune system. So not only that, but iodine is the most important spiritual supplement as it relieves depression and brain fog and helps you connect to your higher self. I talk about increasing your frequency, meaning living at that higher level of awareness and spirituality. The scalar frequency embedded in the Acceleradine detoxes your pineal gland, which connects you to your higher self, clears that brain fog, and awakens you. No other iodine has this. And with the iodine, you can take what's called Nuke No More. This is the best radiation poisoning treatment I've come across. It's a scalar charged Ormus formula that supports the removal of ionizing and non-ionizing radiation from smog, x-rays, commercial flying, as well as the smart meters on our houses and our smartphones and other electro pollution. This is becoming more and more important in our daily lives. Additionally, it's able to help detox heavy metals from the brain. And lastly, accelerated scalar silver. Not only does the silver have an alkaline pH of 8.0, unlike any other silver supplement, it creates that environment that foreign pathogens may not be able to survive in. And it's also programmed with bioinformational scalar technology to further help strengthen the immune system and devitalize those foreign pathogens. And like the acceleradine, the scalar frequency embedded in the silver lifts you to that higher state of being or higher frequency. So there we go. And now to the good stuff. Drew Manning is back. He is the New York Times bestselling author of the book Fit2Fat2Fit and is best known for his Fit2Fat2Fit.com experiment that went viral online. He's been featured on shows like Dr. Oz, Good Morning America, The View, and many more. His experience has become a hit TV show called Fit2Fat2Fit. His new book, Complete Keto, is also available. And if you missed our first two interviews, you can find them at Accelerated Health Radio on all of the podcast platforms and my YouTube channel. Welcome, Drew. How are you this morning?
Hey, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be back with you. I'm doing okay. I've been better, as we were talking before this. This journey is really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking as you're getting up this morning and your mental clarity's got to be suffering, you got to be the holiday season in itself is stressful and a lot more than what we're used to. And then put COVID in there, and now you are in a body that you're not used to, and your brain and mental capacity can't be what it was
For sure.
last time we talked. So how are you feeling in the mornings when you get up?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I thought I would be used to this feeling because I did it, a while back. But I kind of compare it to all the moms out there that have had multiple kids. You kind of forget how hard, pregnancy is. Like, that's kind of how I feel. I'm like, man, I forgot how hard this is. And so waking up in the morning is really interesting because I've been tracking my sleep through my Whoop app and the data. And you see my sleep efficiency go way down, and my HRV levels have significantly dropped from like about 100 to 30s, 40s, maybe 50s on a good day. And so when I wake up in the morning, I'm sleep deprived. I'm really groggy. So the first thing I need is caffeine. So I'll take a lot of caffeine, whether it's coffee or an energy drink or whatever it is. And that kind of helps me for the first couple hours of the day. But the mental clarity is it's constant brain fog, which is not fun. But this is what I'm trying to make people more aware of is when you live this type of lifestyle, when you eat unhealthy food, when you don't exercise, and it affects you in so many other ways than you think. Like we think, oh, it just makes me gain fat. No, it affects your sleep, which affects your hormones, which affects your mood, which affects your ability to handle stress with your kids, with your spouse, with work. And you're not the best version of yourself when your physical health isn't taken care of, because it carries over into the mental and emotional health, which affects, your relationships in life and affects how you are able to handle stress. And so it's been such an eye opener for me, again, to do it a second time. But my hope is that people are more aware of like, oh, okay, I see the connection now. I see why I'm so grumpy. I see why I'm so irritable. I see why I'm anxious all the time or depressed or sad. It stems from food, nutrition, sleep, hormones, and, lack of exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I push diet, exercise, and supplements, right? But I've always said that stuff doesn't mean anything if you're not sleeping. So even take someone like me who's eating clean and exercising every day. If I have a bad night of sleep just from stress or whatever, the next day it's a lost day just because it just affects every function and it ages you so quickly. Before we get into some more of the questions, I want you to tell everybody where you're in this journey. Is this week 14 or 15?
On week 15. So I'm a little over 3 months in, and I have one more month left to go. So I started August 27th, and I gained weight through December 27th, which is my 40th birthday. And then January 4th is the official start date that people can join me on the journey back to fit, and we can do that journey together as a team, as a community. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Awesome. And I want to talk first about, okay, last time we talked about the
Sure.
side effects of you feeling, the gaining the weight. Can you talk about what is different this time around versus the first time? You're older now.
Yeah.
Does the age affect you? Does the mental state? I mean, you were mentally prepared for what was going to happen, or at least you thought you were. So what's different this time around?
Oh man, so much is so different. First of all, I'm just a totally different person. I was in a different place in my life back 10 years ago. I was married, had 2 little kids. Back then I was more self-obsessed with my body. My body image was my self-image. And it wasn't until I did my first Fit2Fat2Forty experiment that really kind of, that humbled me and freaked me out, because I was so uncomfortable, so self-conscious about being overweight that I didn't handle it well. Like, I wanted to go up to strangers and explain to them why I was overweight and show them before pictures of how I normally looked, because I was so self-conscious. This time around, I'm older. Yes, I'm wiser, and I'm not as obsessed. I don't have that body image issue that I used to. So walking around with my shirt off, like I was just in Hawaii last week, and I was like, man, I actually am not embarrassed, or I'm not like trying to suck my stomach in. I'm just like, well, this is me now. And I know that it's temporary. So that's different. As far as the age thing, back then I was 30, 31. Now I'm 39, turning 40 soon. I feel like it's affecting me so much more mentally and emotionally than I thought it would. But I do have to kind of explain that back then, social media wasn't what it is today. So the pressure to post back then was one Facebook post, because that's all that was around back in 2011. Now it's like Facebook story, Instagram story, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, like all these things that are happening. And it's like, it's a lot more pressure, a lot more stress. And so my ability to handle stress is not what it used to be when I was healthy. So there's a lot more stressors in my life than there used to be. And my girls are older. They're 9 and 11. And so that plays into this, where now, before I started this journey, I had to sit down with them and their mom and really have a discussion and say, okay, girls, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to be eating. Now, that doesn't mean you get to eat what I'm eating. You still have to eat the food that I make you, because I still have to cook for them healthy food when I have them. But, at the same time, I don't want to restrict them completely to the point, because obviously they want the food that I'm eating, because they're kids, right? They're naturally going to gravitate towards that. So we've really done, I think, a good job of educating them on, look, not only is this food causing me to gain weight and, making my belly grow, but it's also affecting my mood. Like, they notice I'm less patient with them. They notice that I'm sometimes grumpy. I'm more irritable, and they pick up on that. And so they see that connection. They're like, Daddy, I want you to go back to getting fit again, because I don't like this version of you. And they're pretty honest about that. And it kind of hurts me, because I know that it's affecting me, but it's powerful. The physiological effects that happen when you eat this type of food and you don't sleep and you don't exercise affect you more than you think. Even though I try and stay the nice guy and I try and be not stressed out, it affects you. So those are the differences.
So in the beginning, of course, the new food that you're bringing in, the processed sugar and all the fun foods, are attractive to them. But now 14, 15 weeks in, are they not as, they're not craving it as much, or after they're seeing the effects on you, or are they looking at it going, I don't want that anymore? Or are they still tempted?
They still crave it. I don't think it goes away completely, but they do see, hopefully they're more aware of seeing what that food can do to them if they eat too much of it, or they have it every single day. So they still want the treats, because for them, I think, they still have to eat the food that I make them, but sometimes I'll allow them to pick a treat for the day or something along those lines. But yeah, if I just let them pick whatever they wanted to eat, of course they're going to gravitate towards that food. But my hope would be that they would kind of at least be more aware of in the moment, be like, okay, I see what this is doing to Daddy. Maybe I shouldn't eat as much, or maybe I shouldn't eat this food. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe it'd be an interesting social experiment. Put it like a hidden camera, see if they go for that food or the healthy food in certain situations.
Raising daughters, we discussed this last time. It's so tricky because, the body image thing is just dumped on them regardless of what we're doing in the home. I've got 2 daughters that are teenagers, and, here I am thinking that I was going to talk about only the benefits of a healthy diet. It's not about the way you look, it's about the way you feel, and about the way you function in school and all of these things. And still, it's an uphill battle. And your kids are younger than mine, so get ready. It's tough. I mean, the teenagers are really tough, and as their bodies change and they're not used to, and you've got some wonderful women in your life as well as good support for them. Is there anything else that you've noticed from your daughters through this experiment?
Other than the fact that they know that I'm less patient with them, they're vocal about that. Like, they'll tell me in the moment, like, "Daddy, you're being rude, or you're not being nice." And that I told them to say that to me when I sometimes let my emotions, control me. Because I've done so much work on myself previous to this journey to be the observer of my thoughts rather than becoming my thoughts. And so I've really prided myself before in the past being able to separate myself from my emotions, be aware of my emotions, like, okay, I'm grumpy, I'm moody, I'm sleep deprived, but then not acting on them. Now it's so hard because I feel like I'm pulled in that direction. And when they say, "Daddy, you're being rude or you're being mean," I kind of check myself. And so I'm like, and they're older and they're more mature and they're picking up on that. And so I listen to them in those situations. I'm like, okay, man, this is affecting me more than I thought it would. And so they're making me more aware of that. And it helps me, to be honest with you. It's not like I'm some crazy person all of a sudden I can't control my emotions, but there are moments where I let the sleep deprivation get to me. And anyone that has had kids, any parents out there, when you have a newborn baby, like, that sleep deprivation is real. Like, you're not the same version of you. You're kind of in survival mode all day long. And that's how I feel, like, because my sleep is not what it was. And so my ability to handle stress is just, I'm like, okay, you're stressed out. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to argue with you, but I sometimes let my emotions get the best of me.
And what people don't realize is, here you are, your blood sugar is already high because you're eating the processed foods. But the stress, you're not able to handle the stress as much. So your cortisol and your epinephrine are high, which raises your blood sugar even more. And it's this cascade and burns your adrenals out. And then you're drinking coffee more than normal. So it's just this whole cascade of spiraling downwards. And that's why I try to explain to people that it's not just diet, it's the exercise and the sleep. It's getting everything back on track.
Yeah.
So important. And it's not easy, but you have to, and we'll talk about it in a little bit more about the importance of community. But I wanted to also touch on your relationship with Julie. I know that she was prepared. You've done this before. She kind of thought she knew what was coming into this situation, and you thought you knew. What is surprising you about your relationship and how it's been over the last 15 weeks?
That's a really good question. I think Julie kind of came into this thinking she was prepared, like you said, because she's actually good friends with my ex-wife. And so my ex-wife and her kind of got together before this, and she kind of filled her in on what to expect and what not to expect. We even talked to my doctor who checks my hormones. And we had a discussion with her as one of our most popular videos. And we talked about how our sex is probably going to change, how my sexual health will change through this journey, because I knew what was going to happen because it happened last time. I knew my testosterone was going to drop, and I knew that my libido would drop as well. And all those things that happen when you don't take care of your physical health, it affects your sexual health. So I feel like she went into this thinking, okay, I'm prepared somewhat. But then on day one, I remember her crying because she went for a hike with the dogs without me. And she just realized that for the next 4 months, she's not going to have her partner do these active things, hiking, biking, working out, yoga, like things we normally do together. I'm not going to be available. And so it really hit her. And so the past 3 months have been really hard on our relationship, actually. And we've even opened up and talked about how we've had to take breaks because, she's had a stressful year with her job. And so her life is really stressful on top of my hormones changing and, me being irritable. Like, it just hasn't been a good combination for us. And so we've talked about that on our social media, and it's really hard. It really is. And we both know it's temporary, but it's been very humbling, I think, for both of us to see how much this journey has affected our relationship.
I think in general, 2020 has been really hard on all relationships. And so for you guys, it might feel like it's just because of this experiment you're going through, but there's all of these outside forces that are also you're dealing with on an unconscious level as well. And then, you throw into that the holiday season, which brings a whole nother level of stress. So I can only imagine what you guys are going through. And that's really smart that you are taking breaks and knowing it's temporary and calling it what it is, because this isn't you. This isn't who you are. And the lack of exercise for someone who is so physical, diet, of course, is affecting you, but the lack of exercise has got to be really hard for you. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's so interesting because, exercise is my therapy. It's my stress reliever. It's my outlet. And not being able to have that has really caused my stress levels to go through the roof, because now I've replaced that with food and alcohol. And this is why some people get stuck in this type of sedentary lifestyle, is because instead of exercise as their outlet, they look at that as kind of like a punishment or a chore. So that doesn't really happen on a daily basis. But eating unhealthy food, which makes them feel good temporarily, or alcohol, which numbs the pain temporarily, that is their stress reliever. And it's unfortunate, it's unhealthy, but I totally see why that emotional connection to food is so strong now, because I'm doing it myself, and I did it back in 2011. It's way more powerful than people think. And we sometimes as health experts try and say, look, just stop eating the food and go to the gym and have that replace what the food does for you. And it's hard to make that mental shift for people. So many people are like, well, when I'm stressed out, when I'm frustrated, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years, where I go towards the cake or the wine or the chocolate to make me feel better temporarily. But then it creates this vicious cycle of, creating that as a habit. And it's really hard to break that habit, because that emotional connection to food or alcohol, or it could be anything, drugs, porn, sex, like social media, TV shows, movies, whatever it is, we all have distractions that we use to numb the pain of some type of emotional stress or trauma or challenges in our life. And it's learning how to break that as a habit, but it takes time for some people. And so this is what is happening to me. Like, I'm going through stressful times with my relationship. I'm going through stressful times with COVID-19 and the election, and like so many things that are stressful. And I find myself going towards the ice cream, towards the wine or beer. Now I drink beer, which I don't really drink, but I find myself doing that now because I have to, but because I'm like, okay, I need a distraction. And it does comfort you temporarily, but then obviously you feel horrible afterwards. But then you want it again a couple hours later. And so this is why I'm such a big proponent of helping people on the mental and emotional side and having empathy for them, because we try and say, look, just put down the junk food and go exercise and you'll feel better. But it's a transition. It doesn't happen automatically. And it's breaking those old patterns, those patterns in our brain, and creating new neural pathways so that we can see our situation through a new lens and have a new perspective on it. But that takes time for some people. And so, man, it's interesting, Sarah, going through this journey myself and being aware of it, but still finding my body kind of gravitating towards those foods or those drinks sometimes.
Well, it doesn't, as mentally strong as you are, the reality is the alcohol or the gambling or the porn or whatever it is, all of those things are dopamine hits.
Yep.
Change your hormones, and it's all about hormones. I mean, the other thing is when you gain weight, those fat cells are holding the bad estrogens, and actually they're holding the emotions, like some negative emotions, and they're being stored to protect you. So then when you start releasing that and losing weight, like week 1, and those things start letting go, not only are you starting to crave those things that you were just eating, but you're letting go of emotions and toxins out into your bloodstream, and you're reliving some bad feelings. And that's the part that people don't realize, is it's a lot more than gaining and losing weight. There's a lot more to it. the hormone cascade is so powerful, and it's almost like you don't have control of your brain. And that is why I am a huge proponent, just like you, as far as the mental and the spiritual aspect of this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is what I'm trying to make people more aware of, is they look at physical transformation as just following a diet and doing an exercise program, and then they'll magically lose weight. And then when that happens, when they get the body that they think they want, then they'll be happy. Then their problems will go away, and then people will love them, and then they'll love themselves. And we look at that as, okay, that's the goal, is to achieve this body. When in reality, I promise you, I know a lot of miserable people that are still skinny and 5% body fat. It's not guaranteed that you're going to be fulfilled once you get the body. My goal is to help people learn how to be fulfilled now, even though their life isn't perfect, even though their body isn't what they want it to look like. Because if you're not fulfilled now, I promise you, becoming skinny won't magically solve the problem for you. If any of you have seen the movie The Nutty Professor, we all remember Eddie Murphy, like, taking a pill and boom, magically the next day he's super skinny and fit. And yeah, it's a temporary happiness, but I promise you there's more to happiness and fulfillment than just having a body or having a car you want, or a house, or money. These outside sources, it has to happen from within. And that's the mental shift that I'm talking about for a true complete transformation.
Yes. Well, we're going to take a short commercial break right now, and come back with so many more questions for you, Drew.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right. We'll take a short commercial break and be right back with Drew Manning. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Drew Manning from Fit2Fat2Fit back on for the third time. So, Drew, I know in the beginning when you started this and you were still, in a healthy, quote unquote, body and your sugar cravings were low, it was almost that you had to force yourself to eat some of these foods. Now, I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you kind of go to bed going, oh, I feel sick from today. But then you wake up and the cravings are there just because of the physical ups and downs of the blood sugar. Would that be correct? Or 100%. How do you feel?
Yeah, 100%. I wake up super hungry, like starving, to be honest with you. It's not very fun, but it's just part of these blood sugar spikes and crashes that some people don't realize. And I'm tracking my glucose through my CGM device, which I have planted in the back of my arm right here. So I can check my blood glucose levels at any time of the day. So I could eat, McDonald's and then check it, 30 minutes later, and I'll get up to the 150s, sometimes 200s if I eat a lot. And then it'll drop down to like the 60s. And then I'm like shaking because I'm hypoglycemic and I'm like, okay, I need something. I need some type of food. And it's really interesting. But then that affects my sleep, which affects my mood and my hormones shifting. And that's why I'm like, emotional. I cry during commercials sometimes. I get emotional when I'm like, what's happening to me? My testosterone, by the way, just to throw out some numbers, was around 600 when I started my free testosterone. And now just recently I tested it's 246. So not good.
Right. So I wanted to touch on how does, number one, the amount of weight you've gained and your hormonal changes compare to when you did this last time in your early 30s?
Yeah, really good question. Back then, I didn't really get a baseline test because I really didn't know what I was doing back then. And so I didn't know what my testosterone levels were. I do remember eventually my testosterone as a 31-year-old dropped down to the low 200s. My guess by the end of this, at the end of December, is it will probably drop below 200, but 246 is already really low. So I don't really have those numbers on hand to compare, to be honest with you. So anyways, yeah, it's interesting. The drop in testosterone, and then the other hormonal changes that I'm noticing. And I do have some blood work coming up. I just did some blood work yesterday for my month 3 checkup. So I'll have those results next week, but it'd be interesting to jump back on with you, Sarah, at the end of this to kind of show the worst when I'm at my worst at the end of December, and then how it changes throughout my journey back to fit.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the hormonal cascade of everything. What about your thyroid numbers? Have you been testing those?
Yes, so far they're still in the healthy range.
Okay.
They were to begin with, and month 1 and month 2 they didn't change a whole lot yet. I do have some other interesting numbers, triglycerides, if you want to look at that, and my HDL. My triglycerides started at 46 when I started this journey. After 1 month of eating the standard American diet, it went up to 240. and then I don't know if you saw, I did a little mini experiment with dirty keto, dirty paleo, vegan, and vegetarian. So just to carry through that, when I went to dirty keto, even though I was doing a dirty version of it, it went from 240 down to 79 because I was still cutting out the sugars and the carbs. And then from there, paleo went up to 150, right? Because I started adding in fruits and things like that and potatoes. And then the next week during dirty vegan went up to 430. And then when I did dirty vegetarian, it's kind of scary, but it went up to 540, which is not good. Anything under 100, obviously, we know is really healthy and good for the most part. So it's scary to see how quickly that can change by eating all these processed carbohydrates.
It's really scary. And I'm really excited to see you do all of the clean and the right ways to do all 4 of those diets, because as we were talking about before we hopped on, I'm becoming more and more aware of that not all diets fit everyone. And I've got clients, I promote the ketogenic diet, but that doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but it might be that they're doing it the wrong way. So let's talk about how you did dirty keto and first, and I want to go through each diet because this is really important for people to know. I mean, I've got family members that are vegans. I've got people that really just eat whatever they want. And then we've got my family that is more cleaner and more apt to a ketogenic diet. And there's definitely a wrong and a right way to do all of them.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to do this was because I wanted to make this journey more educational. So these 4 diets are very popular in the United States. And sometimes people have the perception of, if I do X diet, I will automatically lose weight and become healthier. But they don't really do a lot of research and they just jump into it. So we'll start with dirty keto because that was the first one I did. So it was a lot of things like diet sodas and diet energy drinks. Lots of processed, low quality dairy products like cheese sticks, 4 or 5 of those a day. Cheese added to every single meal, pretty much. Lots of low quality animal meats. So the cheapest of the cheap, ground beef and ground turkey and let's see what else, salami and pepperoni, those kinds of things. And then a ton of keto treats, keto bars, keto cookies, keto cupcakes, keto ice cream, because some people think, oh, well, I'm keto, so I can have, 4 or 5 of these a day. And so, but what's interesting on that week, Sarah, is I actually ended up losing weight, which was really surprising because I think a lot of people don't realize when you go keto, even though I was doing a dirty version of it, cutting out the carbs, I had lost a lot of water weight, but my body fat percentage went up. So that's why I want to show people that just because the scale number goes down doesn't mean you're necessarily losing fat. So my body fat percentage still went up, even though my weight went down. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I went to dirty paleo. Dirty paleo is actually a little bit harder because paleo is more about higher quality foods, right? So you can't just buy like the cheap stuff, but tons of paleo bars and paleo granola and paleo cookies and paleo pancakes and all these processed paleo foods, but they're healthier ingredients, right? And then just a ton of fruit with every single meal, cantaloupe, apples, oranges, orange juice, lots of juices as well. Which will spike your blood sugar like crazy, to be honest with you, because it's straight fructose. And so that's what I did for dirty paleo. Dirty vegan was kind of fun, to be honest with you, because it was lots of Oreos and some other junk food. There's some other cookies that are vegan. There's some other candy that's vegan. certain sodas are vegan. The only thing with vegan is you have to really research, okay, which sodas are approved in the vegan community, which bread products don't have eggs or butter or milk in them. So anytime I went to a restaurant, I had to ask, is there any animal products, milk, butter, eggs in any of the breads or pastas? So you have to be vigilant about that. And then vegetarian was the easiest because that was a lot of mac and cheese, bean and cheese burritos, and pretty much anything without meat was super simple, and actually gained the most weight on vegetarian week, to be honest with you.
Did your cravings change? So when you was it harder? I can imagine, because your body has that natural satiety feeling when you eat fat, right? So
Yeah.
keto, I could imagine that you'd almost feel nauseous if you started to overeat. Whereas if you're a vegan or vegetarian, that you could just eat and eat meat because there's not that brain signal that says stop.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I actually had a hard time overeating on keto. I still was overeating. I was eating. So my normal range when I started my journey was 6,600 calories a day, which is a lot, right? That's a ton of calories, but it's a little bit easier when you're eating processed carbohydrates. And then when I went keto, I had that nauseous feeling because I was eating so much fat to where, I stopped around 5,000 calories a day. I just wasn't able to force myself anymore because I'm eating lots of fat and protein in my foods, and that's a little bit harder. Paleo, the cravings picked up a little bit more, but I would stick to paleo granola, and these paleo bars, like these Lara bars, which are really good, but they're like 200 calories for a tiny little bar like this, So, and then vegan, yeah, it was just my calories slowly went up as I ate these processed versions of these diets, and it was really educational. People loved that part of it, to kind of see, okay, Drew's doing dirty vegan this week, and so many people are like, man, that's how I eat. And my hope is that people will do some research first, and then the journey of Back to Fit will include these diets again, but a healthier way of doing them. So I want to show people, if you are going to do these diets, here's how not to do them first, and then later on, here's how to do them the right way.
For me, like I mentioned before, I've done all of these diets. I've gone from vegan to vegetarian to paleo to keto, even to carnivore. And what I noticed trying the vegan diet was I was never full, full. I got really bloated before my brain ever said stop eating. And when I'm keto, I will get that nauseous feeling and look down at my plate going, gosh, I've hardly eaten any food. And that's one benefit of keto, is that I think it's a natural appetite suppressant. So people end up not eating as much. Carnivore, it's not sustainable for me personally. I know a lot of people are finding success with it, but I did feel amazing on it because it was it's just that natural elimination diet. So anyone with gut issues, naturally, it's taking a lot of the offensive foods. And I mentioned before that I had to switch out some vegetables that were causing issues in my body and switch to other vegetables. And someone mentioned in the chat room, not all diets fit everybody, right? And so I'm really curious to see how you do on the other side and the other spectrum. If you get surprised on how to do it right, if there's a diet that actually works better than what you were doing before this whole journey, maybe it isn't what you were doing beforehand that gets you the most results and makes you feel the best. But I know for me, I could not sustain myself on a vegan diet. Like I get headaches and I'll be full. So there's not the protein or that feeling of I'm feeling really good right now.
Yeah.
So I know you're anxious to get back on track to feel better, but are you a little nervous that once you start getting on track that you're going to have those sugar cravings to pull you back? The thing that you have that most people don't have is the audience that you're accountable to, right? And people are watching, and you can't cheat once you get back on the wagon. And so what do you think that's going to be like?
Honestly, Sarah, I'm super nervous. I'm really nervous about the journey back to fit because I know how hard it is. I remember how hard it was when I first did it, and it's way harder than people think. And so I don't want people to think like I'm just like this, I don't know if I'm allowed to say badass or bad A. I'll say bad A, but like I with no fear or any worries. Like I'm super nervous. I really am, because I know how much hard work physically and mentally it's going to take to be consistent. And the being accountable to an audience definitely helps out 100%. And that's why I want people to join me on the journey back to fit. Because I know those days when I'm stressed out and I'm struggling and I just want something sweet and tasty that's comforting, I know that there's tens of thousands of people out there doing the journey with me, that I know that they're doing it. So I feel like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it, and vice versa. And so that's the power of that. But I am nervous, and knowing how hard it's going to be to wake up early and go to the gym, or do my daily meditation, or take my cold shower in the middle of winter, or make my bed, which are all things that are implemented in my program Back to Fit, because it's not just about the physical transformation, it's about the mental and emotional transformation. So I add in things like meditation. Saw someone ask about meditation, breath work, gratitude list, positive affirmations, these kinds of things that once you stay consistent with them, your fulfillment that I talked about before starts to increase. Even though maybe you're not shredded and have a six pack, but you're more fulfilled with who you are and the journey and the progress. And you start operating out of a place of self-love instead of self-hate. And when you operate out of a place of self-love versus self-hate, then you start to fall in love with the process because it feels good to you, not because it's a punishment or a chore to get those results. Now you're focusing on falling in love with the process because it feels good when you eat healthy food. It feels good when you move your body in a way that feels comfortable. And it feels good to do hard things that you didn't think you could do before. And then before you know it, when you fall in love with the process and continue to do that on a consistent basis, guess what? The results take care of themselves over time. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I see how this works, instead of focusing so much on the results. And if we don't get the results, then we give up on the process because we're like, that process is too hard and it's a punishment and I just don't like doing it. And so that's what I'm trying to help people with. And that's what people can expect when they join me on the journey back to fit. Sorry, I just ran out of breath.
No, it's interesting you mentioned that. I was just thinking, one of the benefits of blood sugar and insulin staying in a stabilized spot, or more of a ketogenic state, is your lung capacity is better. There's less inflammation in your lungs, so you can breathe better. And I'll never forget when my son, who is a rower, when he first started keto, he came to me and he goes, "Mom, it's really weird. I don't need to breathe very hard during my workouts anymore." And just talking right now, if you're out of shape, it's hard to breathe. It's hard to function. It's just, and then you've got the brain fog and the depression from the lack of the hormones in the brain. And it's hard to put one step in front of the other. And that's what I love about what you're giving people as far as the meditation and the gratitude list, because that's something I've talked to my kids about through this whole COVID experience, because you throw kids out of the normal schedule of school, going to school, taking a shower before school, packing their lunch, go to school, go to their sport, come home, do homework. There's a lot of that's missing right now. So when we first started, I said, there's 5 things you need to do every day. You need to read your Bible. You need to meditate. You need to write in your gratitude journal. I need you to exercise for at least an hour. And that means even just to walk the dog, or do your full workout, because people need some sort of structure to keep them on track and to put that one foot in front of the other, especially if you're starting from a spot where there's brain fog and depression and a lack of motivation. It's not just about the food. It's not just about the exercise. And it's, that's, so when you get back on track with this journey and people following you, you will have, I'm assuming, that laid out for everybody as far as how to.
Yeah. So they can join me by, signing up on the email list on my website, and you'll be able to download an app with everything implemented or included in that app. You'll see exactly what I'm doing every single day, my workouts, my meal plans, my recipes, the grocery list, the supplements I'm taking. Like, you'll be able to see all of that day to day and be able to join me the workout you're doing is the same workout I'm doing. So we're suffering through it together. And that's what's so cool about the whole journey. You'll be part of a community, and there's power in that. There is, like, people from Australia or New Zealand or Japan can do the same thing I'm doing, and we're doing it together as a team. And that's what's so different. Instead of having a personal trainer that's leading from the front, yelling at you like, hey, come on, just push harder. It's not that hard. I'm actually the one suffering who's probably behind some of these people, like trying to keep up with them, where I'm like, man, this is this is so hard. And that's what makes Fit2Fat2Forty, the second experiment, so unique, versus just a normal program.
I'm excited, and you're right. Community is so important when whatever your goal is. To do things alone is really difficult, and there's innate ability to do more when you have community behind you. And the thing I want to stress to everybody, and I talk a lot about this, it's not about a lack of willpower when you fail. There's so many mechanisms in the body that are going on when you are trying to lose weight. And just like on the physical nature, the sugar feeds bacteria and fungus in the body that grow. And those bugs are causing the cravings, and it changes the microbiome in your body. And your body you are your microbiome. So I'm sure yours has changed considerably over this last period, where the cravings, like you mentioned, even though you think you're going to feel sick after a day of eating that way, your cravings are there the next morning. So that extra weight on you also becomes this protective measure. It's a survival mechanism, and it holds those estrogens and toxic emotions. So when you start losing the weight, those emotions get released, and your liver is something that gets clogged up through this process, and your liver holds your anger and frustration. So when you start losing it, it will release some of those things. So I just wanted to emphasize that for everybody, where it's not just a lack of your willpower. There's so much more going on in the body than just what you can and cannot do. So honestly, I am so excited for everyone to be able to follow you and be with you during this period, especially. I think everyone's ready to get rid of 2020. So January comes, we will all be ready for a fresh start in mind, body, and spirit. Before we go, Drew, can you tell people where they can follow you and where they can find you?
Yeah. So my website is Fit2Fat2Fit with the number 2 in between, Fit2Fat2Fit.com, and you could click on the link or the tab Back to Fit and join me on the journey back to fit. All my social media handles are Fit2Fat2Fit. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. It's all the same.
Awesome. And one last question. What is the number one thing that you are excited to get back to in January in your life?
Honestly, Sarah, it's the feeling of being healthy. Like the feeling of being healthy, having that mental clarity, better digestion, not being a slave to food, not having these ups and downs of blood sugar levels spiking and crashing, like just the feeling of being healthy, to be able to play with my girls without being out of breath, or doing a podcast without being out of breath, and being more at peace with just my life and where I'm at with everything. Like the feeling of being healthy, I think is what I am, missing the most, and I can't wait to get back to, and hopefully people can experience that as well, in my opinion. So my hope is that people will be able to experience what it's like to feel healthy. It's not about the body, like you said. It's not about getting skinny. It's not about getting the results. It's about the feeling of being healthy and doing it because you deserve to feel healthy every single day of your life.
Yes, I agree 100%. Thank you for doing this. I know so many people are so grateful, because it takes a lot of guts to do what you're doing. I don't have the guts. So thank you.
I don't blame you. It's hard.
Thanks for joining us today, Drew. And thank you everyone else for joining us. If I can help you with your health issues, you can contact me directly through the website, Sarah at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I am happy to put together a personalized protocol for you. I know sometimes it's hard to know where to start. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and my YouTube channel under Accelerated Health Radio and TV. You can also find this episode and all my episodes under iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Pandora, or whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. I also do Accelerated Health Bites, where I do short informational videos about the health topics and solutions that you ask me about. So if you have a condition or a topic you want me to address, let me know. And if you like what you heard today, please hit the subscribe button and share this with a few of your friends who may need my help or Drew's. As you share my channel, it helps me help more people like you and bring more cutting edge guests to the show like Drew. Don't miss next week's interview with Eric Perner, where we will be talking about regenerative agriculture, and you can find the supplements that I discussed in the beginning and all the videos on the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. You can use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us here on Accelerated Health Radio and TV, and have a great week. Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, Sarah.